I'm now stood on stage with my app-controlled shoes. Now, that doesn't mean that they will actually steer me around and I don't even need to think about walking. What they would do, if they were talking to the Bluetooth on my phone, I could then change lighting sequences. And to be quite honest, I don't even refer to them in this conversation. They're there to prove a point that we are more connected than we ever have been. What I've also got in my hand here is a drone, which, look, I'm going to put this on. The whole point of this originally, when I thought this would be a great idea, it's a personal autonomous drone that will actually follow me around, which is, that's a great idea, until you hear how loud it is. And of course, none of you will be able to hear me. It's just waking up. Everything that I wear pretty much needs waking up. I've got a smartwatch on, so don't rely on any timing for this, because the battery will probably be dead. So this, again, if I was spending time connecting it to my phone, this would now be relaying the image and with facial recognition would be following me around. It would know that I was here. Now, this is an incredible view of the future. Slightly disturbing in some respects, especially when they'll probably be hacked. But what we've got here is your personal assistant filming, taking everything. This is the ultimate selfie stick. But this isn't about that. I will put that away now. Now, it wouldn't be right if I didn't carry on without taking a quick 360 image of everything here as well. Let's not miss the opportunity while we're talking about bits of VR stuff and all sorts of fun stuff. So if you're all looking your best, in your best radiant 360 degrees with my slightly weird-looking face behind us, you are there, captured, with Paul over at the side. Right, let's get on with the real thing. So, what do I do? Well, I'm head of innovation at Brandwidth. We're a UK-based agency with offices there and in the States, and we produce amazing creative stuff for almost any digital platform. Now, my role there means that I get to play with fun stuff, lots of tech goodies, lots of incredible things. But there is a reason for that. That's about seeing what we've got lined up for us in the future. Not just us, but for brands and everybody else. So I get to play with things like augmented reality motorcycle helmets. Now, the reason there are two small children there is my poor, poor children. If you were in my VR talk earlier, you will see that they get all sorts of things inflicted on them. There they were being artificial intelligence. Which actually they proved to be much more intelligent than any artificial stuff could be. Also, a whole load of stuff for wearables and smartwatches, mostly dismissing them out of hand to say that they are not going to last you 24 hours, that battery's dead, it's not actually functioning as a watch. And then, of course, lots of virtual reality from the real extremes. Now, the VR stuff, it shows you to what kind of extent we really, really push these boundaries to test the stuff. And, it wouldn't be right if we weren't living the stuff that we were suggesting. But the things that we've actually delivered on there, so first up is a piece of gestural interaction, if the video will play. Oh, look, we're going. Okay, so we've got some gestural interaction in the corner there. It's way back in 2008. Great ways to actually use input devices, which we've kind of gone in a curve there where we dismissed it. We're coming back to that again, particularly for VR, where it's great ways to control content. Then in the corner here, we've got, here we go, our prior to iPad launch, we basically used a piece of foam board that we could put it out to actually bring Apple out of the woodwork. And that's when we started working with them after that. But it was a great way to, as a proof of concept. And then, of course, similarly with other Apple devices, we then did the same thing with the Apple Watch. So we essentially said, look, this is how we would like the devices to seamlessly connect and share and change that content as it ended up on your wrist, which wasn't quite the case in the end. A couple of years ago, I was on stage. Paul, unfortunately, was bearing witness to that with me having a Oculus Rift lightsaber battle with myself. But having worked with Star Wars, it's a great way to take that content and really, really make the most of the platform. So the real stuff. It really wants to see me at the end of this. Right, whole bunch of clients, but they're all looking to the future, and that's kind of the point of what we're looking at here. So film is a great place to start. It's a brilliant place to start, and it's what the kind of the theme I'll continue with. A pretty much a dismissed film that came out of the Disney stable was Tomorrowland. Storytelling that actually encouraged the next generation to think in the ways that we used to. I say we, I'm not that old, but back in the 50s and 60s, and the way we were still looking to the moon and beyond, and the way we were still thinking seriously about flying cars that still haven't materialized. Something that actually, it was looking about how do you bring back that sense of awe in the larger picture, the much, much bigger picture. So even the content involved in there, you look at that and you think about, the City of Arts and Sciences in Valencia. They actually use that because it exists. That's a vision of the future that exists in reality. And, what a great way to then kind of seamlessly take that into film. But hearables are probably our next big thing. So now VR has been the next big thing for years and years and years, and I'm not fed up of talking about it. And the combination of that with AI will be big. Now, it will be big in a very, very different way to almost anything that's been coming along. So we won't be thinking as creatively about that. Essentially with a set of Bluetooth headphones, we'll be doing things that we would normally do wirelessly. So it's about the things that we normally get as our status updates and the text messages, and everything that appears on the top level of a phone is the kind of thing that can be the spoken word for status in your ears, even down to sat-nav and the kind of directions. And of course, the example we've got on the right-hand side here is Waverley Labs of creating a great headset that will actually live translate. So what a great piece of technology that is, and a standalone piece that will eventually be built back into your handset again. So everything that appears over the next few years that has proprietary technology built into the headset, we can start to think about how that will be across just every platform that we use for mobile. Is there a general direction? Come on. And of course, we've got Terminator. But the view of the robot, I mean, that's the very simplistic view of it, the idea of some kind of autonomous robot that follows you around. Neo is incredible. And when I first tested this amazing little French robot, the first thing they asked me to do was to push him over. And you do that, first time you just push him over and you think, oh, you feel a bit awkward about it, especially if you've got kids. But then he falls on the floor and he slowly picks himself up and you feel really guilty. This is just another piece of tech, yet another gadget, but you can see already how, the more human that we make them, or their characteristics, the more we will relate to them in the same way that we do another human. There we go. And of course, HAL, the ultimate in artificial intelligence, which is overarching across all of those things, from our hearables, the omnipresent is going to be all when we think about Siri and Alexa, and all of these things that we're already talking to that are talking back to us, but the fact of the future. And talking of Back to the Future is Back to the Future, because Back to the Future 2 in particular brought us all sorts of fun technology. When we think about the spread of tech here, we've got the good old hoverboard, which now, thanks to people like Lexus, is real. It really hovers. I've been on one of these. It's amazing. It doesn't go very far, but it's the right idea. Then we've got things like fingerprint scanning, but for payment, and fingerprint scanning for access to your house. So again, we're extending that Internet of Things. And then, of course, foretold the whole thing about FaceTime and Skype. What it didn't foretell was the ability of remote controls to still work in the future, which I hope that we'll just be thinking about our next slide. And then, of course, and I'll go into slightly more depth about this for film, is VR. It's back again, and AR. So they're both big subjects. Unfortunately, that's a poor image. And now, Alex McDowell, so let's look at some of the personalities that are thinking about film and the future and futurology and how we help shape this. So with people like Philip K. Dick, incredible author, incredible visions for the future, but then someone like Alex McDowell, whose mission, he is tasked with visualizing and creating and making something come to life that he is basing on reality. So he was tasked by Steven Spielberg with looking at Minority Report. See, now it was unfortunate that Tom Cruise replaced all of my headshots in the final version of Minority Report. But anyway, so his vision, before all the film was set down, before any visuals, anything else, any casting, anything, the mission was, that city that's set in the future, not that far, not too distant, how will we have genuinely have evolved? How will that technology and those platforms and the way people interact have evolved? And the road systems, the integrated, connected cities, and even down to the advertising and the way that is human aware, we're getting closer and closer to all of that content. Oh, my drone's just switched itself off, it got bored. Metropolis, looking to those cities of the future. There's flying cars in there. Paul's already said today, we haven't got the flying cars yet. This is true. But if we go back to that Tomorrowland thinking about the future and about, why wouldn't we have flying cars? Well, one of the main reasons is if we think accidents are bad now, imagine what they would all be like if we were crashing or nudging each other, then falling 50, 60, 50 feet. There we go. Now, next personality. So Daniel Simon is an incredible industrial designer. So he is responsible for the Tron bikes in the newest Tron movie. He's responsible for the flying choppers in Oblivion. So his style is very much about, actually, let's design these things as if they were real. And in the majority of times, they are built rather than as, they may well start out as a computer rendering, which of course they do, but they are built as physical manifestations of his thought process. So this isn't just CGI in the end, these are real vehicles. And the beauty of it is that when you move on and see actually how they're going to appear in the real world, this is where that kind of Tron light cycle, look, it's some fun, it's back again. Tron light cycle. For Lotus, this is an amazing looking motorcycle. I think it's not cheap, to be fair, but I would really want one of those. And that's very much about, look, the future can look sexy. We're very much about form, function, connectivity, all of the practical things for the future, but the sexiness of design needs to remain. And that's never more evident than in robo-race. So for the same people that are responsible for Formula E, robo-racing will be those cars on steroids without the people on steroids. I'm not saying that they're all on steroids, but this is an incredible way to visualize the future of motor racing. We look at Formula One and how it's steadily evolved with various wing shapes and all sorts of things. It really hasn't moved on a lot in the amount of time that it's been around. But if you're starting from a blank canvas, that's where you start. And then that's an incredible opportunity for the design of the future of motor racing. I'm going to start getting more exciting with them. There we go. So that was appropriate for... Oh, he's gone now. I've done two clicks. I don't know if I'm even going to get back. There he is. So Iron Man. So Iron Man, the whole suit, the way that's closer to reality than we realise, because I did allude to it, and you've just seen it on screen. Jetpacks are real. I love the fact that jetpacks are real. Jetpacks were real back at the LA Olympics, to be fair, and it's a bit like spaceflight. We haven't really progressed. Like my slide, we haven't really progressed. Yay, there we go. It's all right. So that's me using a jetpack. Now, I will actually be using one next year, but the point here is about we're looking at the same or similar technology that we've always looked for jetpacks, but we're now looking at electrifying that. And that's not electrocuting me, hopefully. That's electrifying that. So electric helicopters just made a maiden flight this week. That's an incredible step forward towards the future and all of those things that we see in film. But of course, the bit that I really want to do here, now Paul said earlier, I don't know how you get through security at airports. Sometimes I don't, because I do bring too much stuff. Now, one of the things I really wanted to bring here was my Pyro mini fireball launcher. Now, here it is in action. Oh, it's not in action. Look at that. See, you've got to have the next best thing. It's going backwards now. Right, come on. This video's got to play. There we go. Right, so this normally straps on the back of my wrist, and I can actually shoot fireballs. Now, all of that wearable tech that I kind of dismissed earlier as saying it doesn't deliver on the promise, if there's any one piece of, even more so than my shoes because they won't connect to my phone, if there's one piece of wearable tech that entirely delivers, It is this fireball shooting device that actually creates fireballs. Now, it says it will, and that's exactly what it does. It's stunning. But of course, it wasn't one thing that I was going to bring through airport security. But anyway, you'll have to take my word for that one. So, augmenting the virtual future. So, I mean, I alluded to it, and we do lots in VR, and that's not what this is about. We look back at the original Star Wars movie that had projected augmented reality, essentially. We pretty much called them holograms back then, to be fair. And, you know, the next thing up will be much, much closer to our vision of augmented reality. Oh, if this was a lightsaber, it'd be much better. So this is something we hopefully all remember from the augmented chess scene and the chess game, and all the characters start attacking each other, and that now is much closer to reality, because the original designer of those characters that were in the film is now producing a genuine augmented reality version as a game. So the fact that he has handcrafted and modeled all of those, and then they've been turned into CGI, it's a great way of bringing that skill forward. And all these years later, he's now producing the future. So Lawnmower Man, actually, it's one of those that actually the elephant in the room is probably the slightly sexualized elephant in the room, where VR porn is there in our future, and it's gonna happen along with everything else. But I'm sure it will inject a lot of money into the industry, and we'll all be better off for it. Not for the porn, but for the money. And I mean, VR and AR have littered the history of film, and we look back over these, and a rather awkward moment in Demolition Man where there's Sly Stallone and Sandra Bullock having a weird sexual moment with two headsets, through to Michael Douglas, who has lots of sexual moments in his films, but he's using augmented reality. Johnny Mnemonic looks like poor old Keanu Reeves has just walked into some kind of device that he didn't even realize he was putting on. And then we get to the holodeck. Now, Star Trek always gave us a great promise that it was going to deliver on this. But the one that really delivered was Murder, She Wrote. Clearly, that was the VR episode that we all remember. No, where the holodeck is really delivering is the Void. Now, I spoke a little bit about this earlier in my other session, but this is by far the closest we are getting in any piece of technology in virtual reality to delivering a physical experience in a virtual world. So the guys out in Utah have made an incredible environment where you can touch the things that you see. You can feel the environment around you, whether that's via wind coming in over kind of a jungle vista or flaming torches. This is the thing that moves VR on to that point where you believe you are there. You're not just having an amazing experience. You wholly believe you're there. Completely wireless, haptic, so you feel the things that are hitting and shooting whatever else at you. Great, great experience, and a genuine view of the future. We're still doing okay, apart from the clicker. Oh, there we go. Right, smartwatches. I did profess my love of the smartwatch earlier. And of course, the pose, which we're all adopting. We'd never realized that pose was because you'd have to do that to make it actually tell the time. Whereas a normal watch, of course, I could have just been casually glancing down at my wrist. But now you have to go to the full, I'm actually a bit bored with this, and look at your wrist. So, James Bond. It wouldn't be complete without James Bond and all of those gadgets. Now, I'd love to be M, Q. Which one is it? Oh God, which one is it? But the thing is, Pierce Brosnan was sat there in the back of his BMW 7 Series in 1997, controlling a BMW in your remote, and it'll go and park itself in your garage. So we are getting there. It may not do a high-speed chase. But the cars that are doing it, and the ones that are really pioneering, are the ones that are trying to disrupt the regulars, the established market. So we've got full touch screen AR content in Mission Impossible. That's a definite view for the future. We've had heads-up displays in cars for a while, but they're kind of still a little panel in front of us. But as I say, the ones that are really disrupting it and doing the things that they can do like none of the others are the ones that are the new established rivals. So as far as self-driving is concerned, we've got to love Total Recall. But as far as self-driving is concerned, Tesla are doing a great job of actually replacing the kind of excitement and fervor that used to surround things like the iPhone. But what a lot of people did for Tesla was queue up in exactly the same way with the same level of excitement that they used to for a phone. And this is for $30,000 plus of car. Everyone putting $1,000 down, and then that's a phenomenon. That's unknown, unheard of in the automotive world, unless it's a short-run, high-value production. So we're now looking at actually moving the devices that we thought of as the technology appearing in something that was automotive, even the same way that we think about them, that is being transferred and moved forwards. So, yeah, if you like film, then you'll relate to all of that. If you like tech, then it kind of works anyway. But how does that relate to you? How do we apply that? Well, I'll tell you in a minute. Oh, there we are. So listen to what customers are saying and what they want. So that's, that sounds reasonable. But actually, what's more important is what they don't want. So a customer will always know what they don't want, so they'll always have an opinion on that. So designing the future, those consumers, those customers, however you want to refer to them, they need a strong direction. So I've always, it's not that I disagree with it, but I've always enjoyed having an opposing opinion for those that say, actually, build to solve problems. Which is true, which of course you should do. This much bigger picture. So it's not about people will say don't make people want things, make things people want, which is actually admirable. But as I've already said, people don't necessarily know what they want. So you need to give them a little bit of a shove. Because, if we come back to virtual reality again, if we were asked, or we were asking consumers, do you want virtual reality? If it was completely open-ended and said, what do you want? No one. You can bet no one would have said, I want virtual reality. So by going ahead and creating something that nobody wanted, didn't mean that we couldn't make them want it. So the world is better off and is more creative and has incredible pieces of design and experience, are more often than not better off for something that we didn't even know that we wanted. So the slide that you saw just now, if I can get it back up again, begins to explain some of that. So if you look at the original Newton, it failed at the time, partly because people didn't know they wanted it. Okay, well, they knew the kind of existing platform, which was pretty much a Filofax, but what they didn't know was how to use it. So by the second time round, this was reborn as an iPad. Again, people didn't really say they wanted one, but they knew exactly how to use it. It was a big iPhone, and that's what we needed to do, was to fill that empty vessel with amazing content. And suddenly they thought, hang on a minute, I didn't know I wanted one of those, but I want that stuff that's on it, and it's the only thing that enabled it to exist. And so, well, there we go. I'll recap that last slide that we sped through. Yes, it's time to shape the future. It's actually something that we're able to create, that we can make fact, and get you all out there doing that. Thank you.